Batman Arkham Knight is one of the best games I've ever played, and in my opinion, the best game in the Arkham series, period. And to 120% it, we have to fight through the cold streets of Gotham, stop Scarecrow the Arkham Knight from destroying the city, and oh yeah, find all 243 of Riddler's party favors, and stop all of Batman's rogues in just one night. And did I mention that I'm doing all this on hard mode? Yeah, this is gonna be fun. So to start off the game, we watch the opening cutscene as we burn Joker's dead body from Arkham City in the incinerator, and then literally get straight into it as we're put into first person view in the perspective of Officer Owens as he heads into Polly's diner after a hard day's work. And as we're trying to relax and eat some waffles, we get a complaint about a guy smoking in the corner, and when we go and confront the guy, he turns around and attacks us as we see he's literally a freak of nature. And when we get back up to look around, everyone else around us has turned into monsters as well, to which we pull out a pistol to shoot at them. But of course, since it's a Batman game, we're obviously not going to shoot a gun, but in doing so gets us attacked and puts us straight into the opening cutscene of the game, where we see Scarecrow explaining that it was his fear toxin that caused the havoc in the diner, as we see on the television that there were never any real monsters, it was just all in their head. But after this, Gotham gets fully evacuated and Jim Gordon narrates that it's up to one man to save Gotham tonight, as we get a cool shot of Batman looking over the city, bringing us to the start of the game, in which we finally get control of Batman as we fly over to Jim Gordon's location, in which he tells us the only lead that they have on Scarecrow is that there's an unknown military vehicle speeding through the city, in which Jim gets a call about a squad car and officer going down, which prompts Batman to do his disappearing act and for us to finally play the game as we move towards the location of the squad car. But before we actually get there, we run into one of the many side missions we'll get into playing this game, as on our way to the down officer, I heard some opera music playing, which for those of you that haven't played the game before, this is an indication of Professor Pig's side mission, where he's killed people from outside Gotham and strung them up around the city. And once we get to the body, we can scan it for distinguishing features to identify the person, as their DNA was corrupted. And as soon as we finish with that and identify the victim, we finally get to the first combat section of the game, as we crash the party and start beating down the thugs that were attacking the officer. And after they're dealt with, we rescue the officer, but of course, how can we forget about that military vehicle Jim was talking about, as Batman quickly dodges out of the way, saving both him and the officer from being absolutely crushed. And after going through that traumatic experience, we even the odds and bring in the infamous Arkham Knight Batmobile, as we track down the military vehicle that tried to literally kill us and take it down in no time. And after some fumbling around trying to get to the driver's location, we interrogate him trying to get Scarecrow's location, as he eventually tells us that he's working out of a house in Chinatown. And when we get there, we're met with another combat section and Poison Ivy, believe it or not, as she's being held hostage by Scarecrow with one of his soldiers, which of course doesn't end as he intended, because as soon as Scarecrow dispersed some of his newly created fear toxin, it affected the guard but not Poison Ivy, as she managed to escape after knocking him out. But after an escape attempt by Ivy from Batman goes wrong, we take her in the Batmobile to lock her up in the GCPD. But on the way there, we're ambushed by the militia backed by a full-on tank. But of course, Batman's got this covered as we take control of the Batmobile via remote control to take out both the troops and the tank in one clean swoop, somehow not killing them in the process, because those bullets look like they do some serious damage. But after this, we take on a squadron of tanks just for fun before we escort Ivy into the Batmobile to take her into GCPD lockup. But of course, it's never going to be that easy, because what's waiting for us on the way there? Oh yeah, a much larger squadron of military tanks, which we do manage to make quick work of. And after back-to-back tank battles, we finally arrive to GCPD with Ivy to lock her up. And after looking at the cop we play as at the beginning of the game go absolutely insane, we take a quick trip to the clock tower, where we meet Oracle, Barbara Gordon, to discuss the fear toxin analysis that we sent her after breaking that guy's arm in half, to try and link it to where Scarecrow's manufacturing it. But before we can actually find where he is, we need to connect two antennas to Oracle's system in order to establish a location. One found at Panessa Studios that we power up easily using the Batmobile, and the other that takes a little bit more work at the Falcone shipping yard. As before we establish an uplink with this antenna, we need to free the hostage from inside this small building, as this is our first stealth section in this game with all the thugs being completely armed. So the first thing we have to do is draw out a couple of the thugs from inside that room, as I'll pretty much get slaughtered if I try to take them all at once. So I throw a batarang at the door, which manages to bring out two guys, which isn't enough because even 3 guys will get me killed. And after taking both guys out, we make a quick call to Lucius Fox about a new bat suit, watch a really cool suit-up sequence, and get straight to business, because with the help of the new suit, we get a new takedown option called Multi-Fear Takedown. As with the new suit, as you can see here, I can take down up to 3 guys all at once without taking a single hit of damage, which will be very useful throughout this game, since I am playing on hard mode after all. But after taking all those guys out, we free the hostage, get the tower back online for Oracle, and now it's time to locate Scarecrow, which we do by using the remote controlled batarang to scan for the source of the fear toxin, which we find is at Ace Chemicals, and also where Scarecrow is holed up. So we grab our batarang and make our way over to Ace Chemicals, and by the time we get there, Jim and the rest of his crew are already there waiting for us, as he informs us that there are workers being held hostage by the militia. But that's not all, because as soon as he tells us this, we're met with the militia helicopter that's being manned by an unknown individual who, from what we see here, is working working with the Scarecrow to take over Gotham. But after he destroys the pathway onto the site, we grapple up the structure to get a good look at what we're dealing with, which is pretty much an entire army who are all trained under the one guy Batman just faced off with, as Oracle gives us his name, the Arkham Knight, who just like Batman keeps his identity a complete secret. She also tells us that we'll be able to track down the hostages by hacking into one of the Ace Chemical terminals that we get into right away after taking out some of these armed thugs guarding it. The first worker we get to in no time, as right after we take out the militia, we realize that they had actually killed him. This then follows us bringing the Batmobile for a quick tank fight and getting the second worker, who thankfully is alive. But before we can actually free the hostage, we get to the real first face-off with the Arkham Knight, as he zips down from the ceiling with a bunch of his armed militia rallying behind him, and after his absolutely useless monologue about him wanting to kill Batman and revealing that he knows insider information about Batman's suit, we finally use the Batmobile to scare off the Knight, as well as using it as a distraction to get ahead on the guards so they focus their fire on the car instead of me. And after making quick work of these guys, I escort the hostage to the Batmobile, where I use this ramp to arrive at another tank battle. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of these in this game, just you wait. But after taking them all out, I head over to the location of the next 3 workers who were taken hostage to find out that one after the other, the militia murdered 2 of them, leaving the last one about to be killed. But luckily enough, we made it there just in time to save him from his untimely death. But in doing so, he reveals to us that Scarecrow is in the central mixing chamber at Ace Chemicals, and that his entire plan is that he's making a bomb that releases his newly developed fear toxin across the city. And after taking care of another tank battle, we escort the workers off the building premises with Jim Gordon and go back to finish this with Scarecrow. We do, however, run into a few mini stealth and combat sections here and there on the way to the chamber, but once we reach Scarecrow's location, we find ourselves in pretty much the first real stealth section of the game, with there being a total of 8 armed thugs in the room, with some of them loading the chemicals within the chamber for the bomb. This section isn't too hard to get through, as we take out the first guys fairly easily and take down 2 other guys via a multi-fear takedown. But after that, everyone else was pretty much taken out with relative ease, as everyone was split up for the most part, with me almost being caught after taking out this guy and trying to destroy the sentry gun in the process. I don't know how this guy didn't spot me, but I'm lucky he didn't, as since hard mode's turned on, gunshots hurt a lot more than they usually do. But after taking the last guy out, Scarecrow acknowledges the lack of chemical flow in the chamber and literally invites us to meet him in the main control center because he knows Batman's there, which obviously the first thing Batman does when he enters the room is smash Scarecrow's face into the desk and asks him how to shut down the bomb, to which Scarecrow tells Batman to let him go or he'll kill Barbara, revealing that he knows that she works for him. And right as Batman tells her to leave the clock tower, the connection drops, insinuating that she's been taken by the militia. And as Batman turns around, we see Scarecrow escape the room, locking Batman inside with the bomb. And with the bomb pretty much ready to explode, Batman figures out a way to reduce the bomb's blast radius, all while telling Alfred to find Barbara, which initiates one of my favorite parts in this game, as we remove the neutralizing agents from their casing. We need to do it very slowly though, as if we do it too fast, it'll explode and kill us. Yes, this does take a little bit of time, but the immersion of this part, in my opinion, was spectacular. But as Batman says his final goodbyes to Alfred and picks up the last neutralizing agent to reduce the blast, we turn around to see that Joker somehow come back from the dead, which Batman drops dead out of pure discombobulation, which I do not blame him for, because if I saw a guy that literally died in front of me with a gun pointed at my face in a chemical factory, I'd probably throw that agent right in his face so that I know that I'm taking him out with me. That's all I'm saying. But after the screen goes black, we get to play as Jim Gordon, believe it or not, in a flashback sequence where he goes to Panessa Studios and sees that Batman's keeping 4 people locked up in cells at the bottom of the movie studios, with the main reason being that after the events of Arkham City, there were only 5 people that weren't treated during the Joker's blood crisis. And as we see here, since his blood's been in the system for over a year at this point, they're actually turning into the Joker. But as Gordon mentions, he only counted 4 cells filled, ending this flashback sequence with Batman pretty much revealing to the audience that he's the last Joker and that soon enough he'll be locked up in here with the rest of them. But after the sequence comes to an end, we now come back to the present day as Batman wakes up from his state of shock with Joker literally hovering over him as he comes to. And after Batman gets himself together, we use the Batmobile to break the glass setting us free in order to escape Ace Chemicals before the building explodes, with the explosion being mitigated to the building's area, not hitting the rest of the city whatsoever. But this is where the game starts getting crazy, because while we call Alfred to reassure him that we're okay and that the toxin hasn't hit the city, the fear toxin that we were exposed to in the Ace building has finally caught up to us, as during the conversation Alfred turns into the Joker, which I thought was so hilarious. Well, once Batman sort of snaps out of it, we get to talk to Gordon as Batman tells him that he needs to speak with him, and I think we all know where this is going, as if y'all remember, Scarecrow kidnapped Barbara, who for those of you that don't know is Jim Gordon's daughter. But on the way to the police department, we managed to run into one of Riddler's informants as we interrogate him to give up the location of some of his trophies that yes, we will be collecting later on in the game. I just want to get the story out of the way before delving into that madness. And once we reach the police station, we inform Gordon that Barbara's been taken, as we escort him to the clock tower, which for some reason he was driving to, when we could have just taken him in the Batmobile ourselves, as all it does is initiate another chase sequence with the militia vehicle. But after taking them out, we finally put Gordon Gordon in the car, which initiates another tank battle and the next stealth section in the game, as we need to take out all these guys before Gordon can enter the clock tower. I will say that this is one of the more annoying sections in this game purely because of the medic, along with the small amounts of troops that were in the area, as the moment they find a body on the floor, they're all gonna gather together and the medic's just gonna revive him. But luckily enough, I did manage to take him out before he could resurrect anyone, because this would have just made the section so much more annoying and longer than it would have been. After smashing the last guy's skull into the ground, we managed to take back control of the clock tower, allowing us to go in and relive one of the worst tragedies in Batman's career, as we see the backstory as to why Barbara's stuck in that wheelchair in the first place, with Barbara getting up to answer the door thinking it's her friend, only to her surprise that it's Joker, and with her being in a state of shock tries to run away, but of course you can't outrun a gun, as Joker shoots her in the back, paralyzing her from the waist down. In my opinion, I think this is one of the better adaptations of the Killing Joke story, as it's just such a raw scene and there isn't any extra dramatic effect taken. We just witness a straight up attempted murder in front of our eyes as Joker leaves the room, and all we can do is stand and watch as Barbara lays on the floor in pain. The moment we turn away from her to look back at the wall, red text appears on it that reads, "This is what happens when you drag your friends into this crazy little game of ours," which will be referenced later on in the game. No need to spoil the surprise just yet though. And after we come out of the sequence, we press space to lift her wheelchair, to which Gordon finally gets up the tower, which felt like forever, as Batman finally reveals to Gordon that Barbara actually works for him and that it was completely on him that she was taken by Scarecrow in the first place. But Gordon does not take that well at all, as he yells at Batman, then gives him a swift punch to the face and leaves the tower, throwing the device we gave him to contact us at the beginning of the game. And as he descends the elevator, the only thing we can do in the moment is pick up the device that once represented friendship that now represents agony. But after finally ripping off the band-aid and telling Gordon about his daughter, we move over to the back computer to figure out just where the hell Barbara was taken, as Batman hacks into the municipal CCTV system to see every point of the building, to which one of the cameras actually catches the kidnapping taking place, as we identify that the Arkham Knight was the one that took Barbara and also the car that she was taken in. But of course, since Batman has a supercomputer, it's able to identify the exact model of the tires that the car is using and automatically program the Batmobile to track his tread pattern on the ground, which will lead us straight to its location, which we do right away as we use the Batmobile's forensic scanner to follow the car's trail from the clock tower to the car's position. But of course, this is all interrupted by a militia drone casually just drilling a bomb into the ground. And it's so crazy how casual this is, as before Batman even figures out it's a bomb, he tells Alfred about it and then says he's gonna investigate it, which he straight up just walks up to it and touches it with no fear whatsoever. And to put the cherry on top, while standing over it, he calls Alfred and tells him that it's a fucking bomb. And it seems like Alfred is the only one normal here, as he literally asks Batman why he's standing so close to it after realizing that it's a bomb. And after Batman places a virus upload device on it, we get into another tank battle, which because of it being on hard mode consists of a lot more drones than usual. But even with that being the case, it wasn't that big of a deal, as it was just like every other tank battle before this. And right after we take out the last of the drones, the virus successfully uploads and exposes the bomb's payload, which we attach the car's power winch to cause a controlled explosion, saving Gotham from one less bomb to deal with out of the next 13 placed across the city. But after that little interruption, we keep on tracking down the Arkham Knight's vehicle with the forensic scanner, only to realize that the tracks stop at the Mercy Bridge, which of course is raised and can't be lowered by Alfred since he's been locked out by the militia. And the only way to gain back access is to pay a visit to the central access point on the island, which is located at Grand Avenue Station, which is another stealth section. But after taking out the found militia guy, I use the computer at the uplink terminal to give Alfred back his access to the bridge. But just before I can get back to tracking down Oracle again, the Riddler finally decides to show his ugly face and reveals that he's holding Catwoman hostage and tells us to come to the orphanage or she dies. So the first thing I do is instantly make our way over to the building, to which we see Catwoman tied up to a chair in the middle of the room. And the moment we free her, Riddler finally decides to show his face on the projector as he introduces his assistants for the night, also known as Riddler bots, for the first Riddler combat section in this game, which of course isn't the hardest since it's the first, but trust me, they get way harder than this. And after taking out the last one, Riddler shows up on the screen once again and lets us in on the rules for the night, as he tells us that Catwoman's wearing a bomb collar, and in order to free her, we need to defeat all of Riddler's trials to collect all 9 keys. And after getting the shit scared out of us by Man-Bat, we make it over to his first challenge, which is a racetrack. And I will say that this was a little harder than I thought it was going to be, as I did end up dying numerous times during the race, while also cutting it close time-wise near the end. But I did it regardless, so I'll take it, even though it wasn't the cleanest driving for me. But now that we finished the challenge, we can finally get the key. But of course, Riddler being Riddler, he makes this a game as well, because as soon as we finish the race, a set of lights in a specific shape turn on the wall, and as soon as we step onto the pressure plate in front of us, they change color to tell us which key is the right one, to which he tells us that a set of cabinets appeared on Catwoman's side at the orphanage in the same arrangement as the wall, as it's up to us to help her pick the correct cabinet with the real key. Thankfully, the shape made it a lot easier to pick and choose the correct one, but these shapes definitely do get trickier as we complete more and more of these challenges. And after we collect the first key, I pretty much just said fuck the Riddler the rest of the playthrough until the end, because his stuff alone is probably going to take longer than the main game itself. So after leaving the orphanage, I take care of one of the militia bombs outside the building and make my way back to the Mercy Bridge. Because if you all forgot, we were tracking down the vehicle Barbara was taking it in before we got set off track by that bastard in green. So when we get back there, Alfred lowers the bridge and we're instantly greeted by some militia tanks that we take care of in relatively quick fashion so we can get back on track and find this vehicle that Oracle was taking in. So after using the forensic scanner and running into literally all 38 militia tanks on this island, plus the militia bomb, we finally tracked down the vehicle she was taken in, which is shown to have swerved off the road and crashed. And after a little crime scene rebuilding, it's revealed that Oracle is the one that caused the crash in the first place, as she used her pepper spray and jumped out the car in an attempted escape before the crash. But of course, the Arkham Knight stops her before she could crawl any further and it's revealed that he took her away from the scene. But before she was taken, she managed to leave us with a clue while trying to escape in the form of a scrambler device in order to find the Arkham Knight's location, which we give to Lucius Fox to decrypt. And while we wait for him to do that, I decided to pay a visit to Azrael, who is kneeling in front of a burning bat symbol that he created at the top of a building. And to save you guys the whole cutscene, his entire side mission is that he sees that Batman's abilities are faltering and he pretty much wants to take over as a new Batman after Bruce retires. Batman decides to humor him and sets up a virtual challenge map to fight in to test his skills. But the one condition though is that we have to get through the entire training session without taking a single hit of damage, which is pretty easy this time around as these guys are just basic enemies. And I passed the first test with flying colors. Batman tells Azrael that he's impressed with his skills, but he still has much to learn. And literally seconds after taking care of that, we hear a screech in the distance as we have another run-in with Man-Bat, in which we fly straight over to him as Batman somehow manages to force him down to the ground and take his blood sample. As he manages to escape and fly away, we then upload the blood sample straight to Alfred to analyze it, which he tells us that it belongs to Kirk Langstrom and gives us the location of a basement laboratory that he and his wife had leased out. And once we get there, everything in it is completely destroyed, with only a few monitors working with the video that captured everything that went wrong playing on them. But most notably, there's only one body in the room when we enter, and that's Francine Langstrom, Kirk's wife, who he had killed in his Man-Bat form. And without wasting any time at all, we walk over to Kirk's computer to try and create an antidote to turn him back to normal, which we do pretty quickly and surprisingly really easily. And after creating the cure, all we need to do now is find him just like how we just did and administer the cure on him. And by the way, this is going to be spread throughout this playthrough, so we'll be seeing more of him later on. But before we move any further, I did skip past some things that I did do while I was on the way to the lab in the beginning. As while I was speeding over to the lab, I heard someone getting jumped by a bunch of thugs on the comm, in which I turned right around and started looking for where it came from. And when I turned on detective vision, I found them right away, as these guys were about to kill a firefighter, with all of them being armed. So I just used a smoke bomb to deter their vision and took them all out pretty quickly. And after rescuing the firefighter, he told me that their truck was attacked and the rioters dragged them all out one by one and separated them just like how we found him. And after saving the firefighter, I did manage to find a second one that was right outside of Kirk's lab that we saved just before we entered the building. But after we got done saving them and creating the cure for Langstrom, we got back on track to the main story as we head over to Wayne Tower to receive the data that we gave Lucius to decrypt to find the Arkham Knight's location, in which he has it already as we managed to find the Knight's location, which is in the Miyagani Tunnel Network, where we get into a bit of a tank scrap. But after we give Scarecrow a deficit of a couple $1 million, we enter the tunnels where we reach one of the Arkham Knight's headquarters, and is also where we find the first out of 243 of Riddler's collectibles. And after we sneak past all the security, we reach the exact point of the Knight's last broadcast location, which, surprise surprise, is exactly where he is, as he gets the drop on us on the moment we exit the grate, to which Batman just willfully allows the Arkham Knight to step on him for some reason and literally shoot him in the side, which for Batman is just questionable, especially because this man's literally just holding a pistol. Also, how did Batman even drop to the ground? The Knight literally just fisted the ground and it apparently caused a crazy earthquake that just knocked Batman down somehow. So much for being one of the best martial artists in the world, am I right? But after Batman attempts to heal himself to get back up, one of the militia brutes come towards us trying to get a free shot off as we counter him and bait him under the slam, which we use in an environmental takedown to take him out right away. And after this, the rest of the squad come into play as well, to which we literally take out everyone else without breaking a single sweat, mostly because of the different instant takedowns we could use on the brutes, as well as the room just being big enough to move around without getting too crowded. The real annoying part was trying to take out the medic, because for some reason, every time I tried to use the backlot to get him, it just would never focus on him unless he was out in the open. But I did manage to get rid of him before he resurrected too many people, with the most he managed to get off was like 2. But after taking out the final militia troop, the Arkham Knight apparently went full on rage mode and sent one of his tanks crashing straight through the door trying to kill me with his gun. But of course we're Batman and we have plot armor, so after conveniently finding the fuse box that's connected to the very door that stopped the Batmobile from getting in here, we rewire the box to open the door, in which we take control of the Batmobile remotely and make our way through the room, destroying all the tanks that could potentially kill us, along with the death tank blocking our way from escaping the room. And after taking care of that, we get back in the Batmobile to track down the Knight's location. And when we open this blast door, we see the Knight escaping in one of the military vehicles while also being followed by some backup squad cars. And once we take down the vehicle by ramming the Batmobile into the side of it, we find out that we weren't actually tracking the Arkham Knight at all, and the driver was just one of his many militia guards. And when we drag him over to interrogate him, we get a call from the Arkham Knight directly, telling us that he knew we were tracking him all along and he knows how Batman thinks, which is why he's gonna win. And after that call ends, the interrogation begins. And this, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, is why the game is rated M for mature and not T. As we watch as Batman rolls over the Batmobile towards this guy's head, and us, the players, are able to apply pressure to the guy's head with the Batmobile's wheels to get him to talk, which is probably one of the most brutal interrogations that we ever see happen in the main game. Well, next to breaking that guy's arm in the opening of the game, but this is definitely one of the more extreme things that Batman's done to extract information from someone throughout all 4 games. But after we stop applying pressure to this guy's head, he begs for his life and then tells us where the Arkham Knight is headed, which is to the Penguin, as according to this guy, Penguin supplied the Arkham Knight safe houses and that he's gonna pay him for his services. And after thinking that was the end of the interrogation, we can keep going as we again start applying pressure from the Batmobile on this guy's head again, which honestly looks like it hurts so much, especially with how huge and decked out that car is. But after alleviating pressure again, he tells us that the Penguin uses a refrigeration company as a front to distribute weapons across the city called North Refrigeration. And after putting this guy through a good 2 minutes of straight torture, Batman politely thanks him and knocks him out with a knee to the face, ending the interrogation. And after having a quick chat with Alfred about the developments, we get into a little tank battle and meet up with Nightwing for information on the Penguin's arms deal, along with him delivering us the disruptor gun, which allows us to disable enemy weapons and track vehicles, which we use instantly by disabling the weapons box and fully disarming one of the guns, which blows up on trigger. And after taking out all these thugs somehow not notifying the guys within the car, we use the disruptor gun Nightwing just gave us to set a tracker on the vehicle and knock on the door to give them some motivation, as the moment they open the door, they get the absolute shit scared out of them and start driving away. And this part, in my opinion, is one of the more coolest sections in the game, as we literally just track the car, but since these guys are scared shitless, we can't let them see us, so we just follow the car from the rooftop so they think they lost us, but in reality we know exactly where they are. But after following these guys around for a bit, they decided that they managed to lose Batman, and the next best step is to drive all the way back to Penguin's headquarters instead of hiding someplace else or escaping. So we follow them all the way back to Penguin's weapons cache, where we're confronted with a stealth section, which isn't too hard as there's only 6 guys patrolling the area, but is made a little harder with the addition of the sentry guns. And after we take out the last sentry gun to be safe, we enter the building through the roof's crate access and see the Penguin and a bunch of his thugs counting up all the money they made off the Arkham Knight, which is cut insanely short as we drop down the chute to get under everyone, as we get behind Penguin and jump out to interrogate him about the Arkham Knight and Oracle's whereabouts, which he tells us that he had no idea they even had Barbara in the first place, but he knows that he's on his way to meet Simon Stagg and that the airships in the sky belongs to him. And as Cobblepot is writing out all this information in front of his men that apparently don't care at all, 2 guys pull out guns from the weapons boxes and points them straight at us, which we counter both of them by just throwing Penguin straight onto them, which somehow gets Batman to be held down by 2 of his men, even though he's the strongest guy in that room. But when that happens, Penguin manages to escape and Nightwing comes through to save the day, as we get into a little dual combat section where for the first time in the game we actually get to play as Nightwing, which is really cool. It pretty much plays the exact same as the Catwoman combat section earlier. But after we take care of everyone in the room, we enter the weapons cache and spray some explosive gel on the bombs in order to destroy the first out of the 5 weapon caches in Gotham with a massive explosion. And after we bid Nightwing goodbye, we go back out the way we came, where we're welcomed by a full-on ambush by the militia, as they manage to set up 2 sentry guns at the entrance along with multiple armed men guarding, which we see a pretty funny sequence with the Joker play out, as he tells us that he's gonna deal with the militia while we wait here and watch. And the moment he walks up in front of the sentry guns, we grapple up, triggering the guns to shoot Joker, as we watch his Oscar-worthy performance as he's shot by literally everyone at the entrance, with him playing dead at the end of it. It was honestly so hilarious when I first saw this. The Joker is such a funny character in this game, man. I just can't get enough of him. But after this little comedy act, we activate the Batmobile via remote control to sneak attack the bastards from behind to take them all out, including both sentry guns. And after that, we head over to the location of Simon Stagg's airship, since he's the only findable link at the moment to find Barbara. And once we get there, we see that the militia has taken over his ship while also setting up a watchtower to safeguard it, which in this instance is just another stealth section. And after that, we use the explosive gel on the central command point, in which we manage to disable the tower, allowing us to enter the ship without being detected with the remote hacking device that we use to unlock the door at the top of the ship. And after shocking these guys with their own drone, we manage to make our way to the main hangar, where we see Simon Stagg about to get the absolute shit get beat out of him. But of course, us being Batman, we managed to take out all 26 guys without breaking a single sweat. And after rescuing Stagg from almost being killed, we have a little chat with him about why the militia are on board and what he did to provoke them, to which he tells us that he did absolutely nothing and Scarecrow is on the second ship. And the moment we look back at Stagg, Batman starts hallucinating as Stagg literally turns into the Joker, and all the militia guys that we just took out start creepily getting up all at once. And once we start attacking them one by one, they all start turning into the Joker, and at a certain point, one of the Jokers managed to take Batman down, but not without us struggling and escaping his grasp, to which we snap out of it and realize that Stagg is being taken away by 2 militia troops. But once we get back on our feet, we make a quick call to Alfred as he tells us that the second airship is being guarded by some automated gun turrets, and that a security terminal will be located in the research lab on the airship. And once we get there, we're greeted by a stealth section, which was going relatively well as I managed to take out most of the guys off the rip. But when I came down to take out this guy, this motherfucker decided it was a great time time to sprint over to my location and place down a sentry gun, to which I get caught and Lily was killed after a few gunshots, which of course is a product of hard mode, as on normal mode I would have definitely survived that. But after getting sent flying into another dimension, I come back for a second try, which went a lot smoother than the first, as I managed to take out the medic off the bat and download the drone codes from this guy, allowing us to electrocute 3 guys within it, along with dealing a silent takedown to the drone guy himself, which means we essentially took out more than half the people in the room in a matter of seconds. But after scoping out the last 3 guys, I managed to take them all out in separate areas in the room, completing the stealth section with 1 death. And after taking out the final guy, we move over to the system controls, which we found out that is locked behind a security scanner keyed by Stagg's fingerprints. And in probably one of the most ridiculous sequences I've ever seen in the Batman game, this guy literally reassembles Stagg's handprint from CCTV footage in the lab when he was being taken by the Arkham Knight, as we go to each and every part of the lab in which he touched with his hand to graphically reassemble his fingerprints. And with the powers of the godlike Batcomputer, it just full on gives Batman his entire handprint. So now we can access literally anything that needs Stagg's fingerprint access on the ship. But after gaining access to the controls and destroying the turrets on the other ship, we move on back to the main hangar where we find another set of militia troops waiting to get beat. But this time they become smarter, and the medic troops are able to empower the regular guys by making them electrified with the resurrection devices. But of course they don't stand a single chance against the Batclaw, as the moment they get electrified I can just use the Batclaw on them and just take them down straight up. But after dealing with this combat section, we finally open up the hangar doors to glide kick the fuck out of this window on the second airship, which puts us in another combat section, which, let's be honest, is just as easy as every other combat section in this game. And after we take out these guys, we run down the quarantine labs where we get a look at some of the test subjects that we find dead in their cells, so it is revealed that Stagg and Scarecrow were both working on a project codenamed Cloudburst. And from what we can gather from Stagg's logs, it appears that it's the new formula of Scarecrow's fear toxin. And after letting Alfred know and giving him full access to Stagg's files, we enter the biological engineering lab, where we see Stagg getting locked up in a cage by a new enemy we haven't seen yet, known as the minigun brute, as the only way to take him out is in a full-on fight sequence, which would cause a ruckus and draw attention from the rest of the armed guards to our location if we were to take him out first. But we managed to take everyone out pretty quickly, as the room itself is pretty spacious, allowing everyone to be separate and alone for me to swoop in and take them out. And of course, after taking out the last regular guard, we should have walked behind the minigunner and take him on in a one-on-one fight, which just resulted in a bunch of counters and Batman getting on top of him and knocking him down with a single bat headbutt. But after that little scuffle, we head over to Simon Stagg himself, to which we ask him about what's really going on here, as he admits to us that Scarecrow did come to him for help on the Cloudburst. And the moment Batman asks him what it does, his cell lets out some of the fear toxin out the top, which stops Stagg from giving away Scarecrow's secrets, forcing Batman to knock him out, stopping his suffering for the time being. As we move on to the front of the airship, where we get placed back into first-person mode as we approach 2 Scarecrows, with us having to pick the right one. And after much deliberation, and by much I mean a few seconds, we decide to take down the one on the right, which of course is the wrong one, as we get sprayed by Scarecrow with more of his fear toxin. But as we squirm around on the ground and Scarecrow gives us a Hall of Fame speech, we see more and more Jokers crowding the area, to the point where at the end of Scarecrow's dialogue, Batman gets pretty much fully Jokerfied as his eyes turn green and takes on his voice and personality as he snatches Scarecrow by the neck and nearly kills him, but is stopped in the process as a few militia guards come through the door trying to stop him, which initiates one of the most brutal beatdowns that we see in this game, as we get to literally beat down these guards while they're on the ground, which we haven't seen in this game up to this point. But after taking out these guys in very horrific fashion, we walk up to Scarecrow as we punch him in the head and throw him to the ground, where for the very first time we see Scarecrow actually scared for his life, as at this point he's realized that Batman's completely lost it and his life is in potential danger. And he's not wrong in thinking so, because as we can see, Batman just has Joker in his ear egging him on, telling Batman to end him and finally cross the line he's tried so hard not to cross, which we see the camera pan out to find Batman holding a gun in his hand, pointing it at Scarecrow, with Batman actually firing at him. But of course, this was all the result of Scarecrow's toxin, as it's revealed that it was all on his head, as Batman drops to his knees since he knows that in that moment he actually pulled that trigger and shot that imaginary gun, as even though it was all in his head, it showed that he was not in control of his actions and that he was willing to shoot Scarecrow in that moment, even under the influence of the toxin. To which we see Scarecrow acknowledging Batman's condition, calling him different, and when Batman confronts him and tells him that it's over and he has nowhere to run, Scarecrow detonates the front of the ship as he manages to escape with the help of an attack helicopter with the Arkham Knight within it, as he shoots out 2 missiles towards Batman that he manages to somehow dodge with his superhuman speed, but isn't able to dodge the explosion that followed it, of course. And after miraculously surviving all that, Batman somehow finds the will to get back up and answer Alfred's call, to which he tells us that we need to watch Scarecrow's broadcast that's being shown across Gotham, as we see him showing Barbara seemingly unconscious in her wheelchair at one of his safe houses. And the moment we get there, we watch as Scarecrow wakes Barbara up with his fear toxin and convinces her that Batman is the monster that will be her end, unless she uses that gun to deny him that, to which she moves over to the gun and shoots at Batman a couple times, as she then proceeds to point the gun towards her own head, telling Batman that he'll never get to her, as she seemingly shoots herself in the head, killing herself because of the fear toxin. And as Batman sits there grieving Barbara's death, Joker walks around us and tells us that we can't bring her back, but what we can do is let him take control and let all of Batman's fears and pain go away. But of course, Batman's head is elsewhere, as he tells Batman to scan the city to locate the Cloudburst, while he goes over to the GCPD to get Ivy, as she was the only one that was immune to Scarecrow's toxin. And once we get there, we run into a cop that's working for the Riddler, as he interrogates him and get into the cutscene that made one of the most popular shorts on this channel, especially this guy, since all of you guys said that he looks like Kanye. And after locking him up, we scare this guy, convince Ivy to help us, and then get into one of the most high quality cutscenes in this entire game, as we interrogate our good old friend Jervis Tetch, aka the Mad Hatter, about 3 hostages that he took from the GCPD, in which his side mission is to listen for the sound of police sirens in the distance, where we will ultimately find each missing police officer. But before we can leave the GCPD and take Poison Ivy to the Botanical Gardens, the militia apparently brought in their big guns in the form of the new Cobra tanks, which we can scan to find a weakness. At the moment we figure it out, we use the Batmobile to get behind it and shoot one straight bullet to the back of it and destroy it completely. And after getting the EMP upgrade, we head over to the Botanical Gardens, but the moment we enter Miyagani Island, we get into the first Batmobile stealth section, as we need to deal with 3 Cobra tanks on the island, which I call vehicle stealth section since it works pretty much the exact same, as these tanks are super powerful and can destroy the Batmobile in damn near a single hit, just like the guns can kill us really easily in the regular stealth section. And the moment we take out one of the Cobra drones, others in the area will get notified and get sent to the destroyed drone's location, just like regular stealth sections with thugs. The one thing I will say about these sections is that they're way easier to deal with than the regular stealth sections, as you can just shoot one and run away without being caught, as the radar makes it really easy to track all the tanks in the area. So unless you're super unlucky, there's pretty much no way you die in one of these sections. After destroying the last tank and taking care of one of those militia bombs on the ground, we take Ivy to the Botanical Gardens, where she tells us that she won't be able to stop Joker's toxin with this plant alone, as she needs more power if she's going to filter out the toxin when it does spread across the city. To which Batman suggests that they find another one and tells her that he'll find a way to break the roots free from within the ground. And as we leave, Ivy's welcomed within the plant as she walks in, powering it up, allowing it to sprout into the flower that will help us clear the toxin out of Gotham. But after that, we talk to Lucius Fox about a way to find the root underground, and he tells us to come to Wayne Tower when we're ready. And after getting jump scared by the Joker out of nowhere, we manage to get to Wayne Tower, where we get ambushed by a bunch of militia tanks that we take care of fairly easily, and we get the upgrade Lucius made for us to find the roots via a ground penetrating sonar. And once we get to the center of the root, we fire a sonar blast that frees the root completely from underground, allowing it to be functional. But of course, the militia wasn't going to let that slide, as they literally shoot a full-on RPG into the flower, which is one of the most random things I've ever seen in this game thus far. And after taking care of the militia troops, we get the notification from Ivy that the flower has fully matured and that it'll be strong enough to stop Scarecrow's toxin. And when we contact Alfred to see if he's located the Cloudburst yet, he says he wasn't able to due to the interference with the militia attempting to hide their movements. Batman then asks him to run a full analysis on the Arkham Knight's forces and upload the data to the movie studio when he's ready, which is exactly where we go to next, as we enter the elevator to go down to the base within the Panessa Studios. But while we're down there, we get another call from Alfred regarding us telling Robin about Barbara's death, as in this game they're in a relationship together, to which Batman tells Alfred that he's not going to tell him about her yet, as he wants him to focus more on the cure, to which Alfred says that keeping it a secret was bad enough, but not telling him now is just wrong, to which Batman says that sacrifices need to be made, as he ends the call and meets up with Robin in Panessa Studios, which for those of you that forget is where the flashback where we play as Gordon takes place when we passed out in Ace Chemicals near the start of the game. But once we get down the elevator, we head over to the back computer where we get the data files from Alfred, as we find out that Founders Island is being protected by 2 radar towers connected to a missile launcher, which completely stops the Batwing from scanning the area to find the location of the Cloudburst. And the only way to take care of that would be to find a special drone that the militia deployed that manages all communication. And after relaying this entire plan to Alfred, Robin asks us about Barbara, as he hadn't heard from her since she was taken, to which Batman completely lies to him and says that she's fine, and Robin just tells him that if he needs help, he knows where to find him. And after completely lying to our most trusted ally, we run into our old friend Man-Bat to administer his cure, but we aren't able to administer the full cure as he fights his way back up and flies away. We also managed to rescue another firefighter and managed to take out 2 more militia watchtowers along the way. And after doing all those, we finally managed to find the drone that we've been looking for, which looks completely different compared to all the other ones, as Batman gets on top of it, rips out the relay chip, sending it flying to its death as it falls right out of the sky, to which we get a new addition to our remote hacking device, as the relay chip allows us to temporarily blind nearby drones so we can get around them without them spotting us, which we used immediately as we turn around to the exact tower that we need to destroy and blind the drone guarding it, allowing us to fly over and destroy the relay tower without being detected. And after that, we head over to the next relay tower as we take care of some of the militia troops guarding it, and then open the doors keeping it locked in, which to our surprise is being guarded by 2 sentry guns. But of course, with our newfound hacking abilities, we can blind one of the sentry guns with the hacking device, and now all we have left to deal with is the missile launcher, since it's no longer being protected by the relay towers, which is being guarded by a whole bunch of armed militia in a stealth section, which we make pretty pretty quick workup, besides when I got spotted instantly and had to resort to a fear multi takedown instead of not being detected the entire time. But after taking care of that, we lowered the defense barriers of the missile launcher, to which we take control of the Batmobile remotely to destroy it. But before we can even get close to it, the Arkham Knight deploys 5 of his Cobra tanks right away to defend it, which did take some time to get rid of. But after taking out those guys, we used the Batmobile to pull up this ramp in order to get to the best position to attack the launcher. But before we can move any further, we're stopped in our midst by the Arkham Knight himself, as him and a squad of soldiers pull up right outside of the room that we're in as we're controlling the Batmobile. But the moment the Arkham Knight kicks open the door, Batman's completely disappeared, with the Joker acting all scared as if he could see him. But after he tells his men to raise back up the defense shields, is when it's revealed that Batman managed to hide in the grates in the ceiling before they got through the door. And without missing a single beat, we drop down with a multi-fear takedown and take out 3 of Arkham Knight's men before coming face to face with the man himself, as Batman asks him who he is, with the Arkham Knight denying him the information that he seeks, as he pushes Batman away and disappears with the use of a smoke bomb, entering us into a combat section with all these guys. And for some reason, the Arkham Knight just neglected to arm these guys, especially when they were about to face the fucking Batman. But after making quick work of these guys, we drop down the defense shields once again and drive the Batmobile off this ramp and get into the perfect position to get into a battle with the missile launcher, which is honestly one of the easiest tank battles we've seen up to this point, as it got destroyed after being hit a couple times as they spam the same moves over and over again. And after taking care of that little threat, Batman deploys the Batwing to scan Gotham for the location of the Cloudburst, which takes us back to the clock tower to analyze the results. But as we're doing so, Alfred alerts us of an incoming message from Panessa Studios, to which we get a call from one of Joker's patients that we have kept there named Henry, as he tells us that the studios are being under attack, and before we can tell him what to do to escape, he gets hit by a bat from behind the head, as it's revealed that Harley Quinn has taken over the building and tells Batman that she knows about the Joker infected patients that Batman's been keeping locked away and wants them for herself, in which she cuts the call, making us have to go all the way there to deal with her. And as soon as we get there, we take care of the thug she put out to keep us out and attempt to open the door using our voice as a passcode, to which is revealed that Harley managed to change the voice axis of the building on her own, making us have to use a new tool called the voice synthesizer to calibrate her voice so we can use it to open up the doors. And the moment we do that, we open the door using the voice synthesizer, and before we can actually enter the building, a truckload of armed thugs come out to stop us from getting in, as we're put into one of the hardest stealth sections in this game thus far, as this is the most guys I think we've ever been put up against within a single stealth section, as well as these 3 guys being guarded by 2 sentry guns, with them actually being smart for once and not moving whatsoever. But if I'm being honest, this section was actually a lot harder for me, as I just kept getting caught over and over again in the most stupidest ways possible. Either it's the game mechanics being absolutely stupid, or it's just me being in the dumbest positions to the point where I'm just asking to get killed. And remember, this is all in hard mode, so these guns hit like a truck. But after dying twice, I managed to pull myself together and get through the section being as careful as I could be. And since those guys just stayed in front of the sentry no matter what, I could just take care of this minigunner without drawing their attention. And after taking him out, I now had to deal with the last 3, which I took out relatively easily, as all I had to do was use the voice synthesizer with Harley's voice to draw them away from the sentry gun so I could take them out without being blasted all by their bullets. And after I took out one of them, the other 2 decided that this was the time to panic, as they just full on left the sentry guns, making it 10 times easier now for me to take them out since they aren't under 24/7 protection, with the first guy being taken out not so silently since he started walking back towards the sentry gun's lines of fire, and the last one being taken out on these stairs. And after dealing with these guys, I destroyed both the sentry guns guarding the entrance and head on down to the movie studios. But of course we can't head down there without some of more of Batman's hallucinations, as Batman hallucinates the opening of Arkham Asylum right before Joker escapes. We're taking him down to his cell as he's locked up with a bunch of guards around him, but this time it's just me and him, as he reminisces about the past and taunts us about his death at the end of Arkham City that he blames us for. But after that little conversation with the Joker and a really long elevator ride down, we finally make it to the bottom of the movie studios, where we're met with this shielded enemy that we take out instantly, and then unlock the door using the voice synthesizer to help Robin take out all the Harley thugs in the area as a dual combat section. And after taking care of our goon squad, we head over to Batman, where we interrogate one of her thugs, where he tells us absolutely nothing, and then head over to the back computer, where we find all 3 of the missing Joker patients, as we see that Albert King is in the Wild West set in a combat section, while Christina Bell has a stealth section waiting for us, and Johnny Charisma is just a full-on mystery. So now that we know where they all are, it's time to take them out, as the first Joker that we're going to take care of is Christina Bell, as on the way to her stage, we're greeted by a small combat section and a minigunner who we take care of by grappling behind him and executing a dual takedown on him in no time. And after that, we finally get to stage B, where we find Christina Bell along with a bunch of armed Harley thugs protecting her, as we enter our first and only dual stealth section in this entire game, as it works just as normal as any other stealth section, where we can call on either Robin or Batman depending on who we're playing as to do a takedown on a thug who's either too far or with another person like the idiot that I am, as I literally called Robin to do a takedown on a guy who was standing right next to another thug and almost got myself killed because again I'm an idiot. And after taking on the minigunner along with the last thug, Harley sends a second wave of men to try to take us out, with this batch being a little harder as it contains 2 minigunners, which makes it harder since those guys have to be taken out last, since their takedown notifies everyone in the room that it's happening, and since there's 2 of them, there's no way to do it without notifying the others. But the good good thing about it is that it's made a little more fair with there only being 4 total guys, as the game plan was to take out 2 regular guys first, but instead of doing it silently, I purposely did a loud takedown so it'd keep one of the guys near the entrance of the room, while the second minigunner just walks up by himself so he's further away when I do the takedown on the minigunner. And this plan worked flawlessly, as when I took down the first regular thug, it drew one of the minigunners towards the body, while the second one just kept walking away for some reason. But by the time I was ready to take out the first minigunner, I cut it a little close, as the moment I engaged on him, the other guy just came running super quick, as by the time I got to the second counter in the sequence, the guy was pretty much at my location, so I was so scared for my life that he was just gonna walk up on me as I was taking out this dude and just kill my ass. But thankfully he was on the ground and not up the stairs, because if that was the case, it would have been a completely different story. But thankfully, right after I finished taking out the first minigunner, he was still standing on the first floor. But the moment he ran and climbed the ladder is when I got the jump on him and took out the final minigunner without any issues whatsoever. And after taking him out, we head over to the door with Batman to apprehend Christina Bell. But the moment we kicked down the door, I managed to counter Christina's attack and lay a choke slam on her ass, while Batman stuns the next guy, and that's Christina Bell's stealth section fully complete. And after that, we leave stage B to find the other 2 Jokers, with the next one being Johnny Charisma located in stage C. And the moment we enter the walking area, we run into another minigunner guarded behind a gate. And the way we get past this guy is by grappling to the conveniently placed ventilation shaft above us and dropping behind this wall where the shaft conveniently ends and spray it with some explosive gel. And after that, we hop back up the shaft and use the voice synthesizer to command the minigunner to check up on the wall with the gel on it. And the moment he gets close to it, we set off the explosion, completely taking him out without any actual confrontation needed. But now that he's out the way, we open the security gate where we see someone with a bag over their head, sitting in a wheelchair. And as we approach them, we realize that it's actually Jason Todd. And in that moment, all the lights turn off as we realize that it's one of Batman's hallucinations, as we see Joker approach him from behind and take the bag off his head, as he tells Jason that he's had him hostage for 6 months and Batman still hasn't found him yet. To which he reveals to Jason that Batman stopped searching for him and replaced him with another Robin, aka Tim Drake, the current Robin, by showing him a picture of both of them. And having killed his hopes and dreams of Batman ever saving him, he pulls out a crowbar and smacks him across the chest, pushing him into the darkness as we watch Joker follow him in to continue his torture, putting an end to the scene as Robin approaches us from the entrance. But after watching that absolutely disturbing course of events, we unlock the door's entrance to the stage and enter as Batman as Robin enters the room through the vent. And as we walk up to Charisma, we notice that he's wearing a bomb vest, as well as there being 5 other bombs placed around the room. And once he starts his performance, Batman starts hallucinating Joker again, this time him singing to him instead of Charisma, which is where we start playing as Robin and go around the room defusing every bomb without getting in the view of Charisma, because if he spots us, he's just gonna activate the bombs and kill us all. But the objects the bombs are sitting on does make it a lot easier to disarm them, as we can just hide behind them since they do take a few seconds to get done, except for one, however, that forces us to disarm it right out in the open without any cover, so we really have to time it right so that he's not facing our direction while we disable the bomb. But after taking out the last bomb, all we have left to do is remove the vest from Charisma as we walk up to the platform behind him and do a dual team takedown with Batman as we disarm Johnny and take him down with one swift motion. And after defeating Charisma, all we have left to do now is apprehend Albert King in stage A, which of course is barricaded off by a security gate. But conveniently for us, there are a bunch of connecting grates in the floor that we can hide under to then use the voice synthesizer to command one of Harley's men to open the gate and lay the smackdown on all their asses. As I make an entrance with the multi-fair takedown and take down the other 2 guys in relatively quick succession as normal. And after taking care of them, we move on towards the stage where we find a body hanging covered with a drape. And when we pull it off, it's Jason again as we watch another one of Batman's hallucinations play out again, as we see Joker holding a flaming hot iron rod ready to torture Jason once again. But before he actually sticks him with it, he tries to manipulate his mind once again so Jason can hate Batman even more, just like the last time when he showed him a picture of him and Tim together. And after giving a whole analogy and pretty much telling him that Batman's completely abandoned Jason for his new Robin, he snaps Jason down from the rope as we watch Joker follow Jason as he crawls away into the darkness and hear Jason cry in agony as Joker pins him with the rod, ending the hallucination as we watch Tim again walking right through as soon as it ends. Robin then asks Batman if he's okay, to which Batman accidentally calls him Jason before correcting himself, to which Tim says that he hasn't done that in a while and that it's time to take down Albert King, which we get right into as the moment we walk through the door, the guy takes out one of his bodyguards and challenges us to a fight off rip. And I will say that this fight is probably one of the most annoying combat sections in this game, as the only way we can deal damage to him is through dual takedowns, and the only way to do that is by attacking the other enemies in the area and building up our meter. But this is made a little hard as this guy is literally uncounterable, so any attacks that he throws out is not able to be countered, so we just have to take the hits when he dishes them out. But the biggest problem that I did have with this fight was that every time I would move away from him, he would just straight up run up on me out of nowhere like he's the Flash and just hit us with a crazy 5-piece combo, with his fighting style being boxing. And this doesn't happen 1 or 2 times, but this happens every single time we try to attack any of the other guards. It also sucks that we can't even use our special combos on him, because anytime I wanted to spend the combo meter and I happened to be looking in his direction, he would just stop it and the meter is just wasted. But after Persisting with his bullshit, we get him down to about a quarter HP with the use of the dual takedowns. And when we hit him with it this time, it takes us into a whole counter sequence just like the minigun brutes in the past. The only difference is this time our punches actually damage him versus the punches doing jack shit to the brutes. But after countering him a couple times, we end the sequence with a kick to the face with us only having to do it one more time. And the moment we build up our meter again, we use it on him instantly. This time with the finale of the sequence being a barrage of huge punches from Batman, kicking him to the ground, and Robin ending him with a stomp to the face. And after that, all we have left of the remaining goons that we take out much easier and faster than Albert King. But before we leave the stage and bring Albert back to his cell, we get a call from Henry as he tells us that Harley is trying to break into the main room with the cells. And when we get to the exit, we see a bunch of Harley's men protected by a security gate, which again we get rid of by hiding under the grates and using the voice synthesizer to get the gate open. But the moment we use it, Harley comes out and tells them that it wasn't her telling them to use it, but it was Batman. And out of nowhere, Robin shows up taunting Harley to the point where she actually opens the gate for real and surrounds Robin with all the thugs while she walks around him with their gun pointed at him. And after letting Harley ramble on for a bit, we do a dual team takedown on her so we can deal with the rest of the guys in a small dual combat section, which would have been really hard to do with the two brutes, but since we had two people, I just beat down the first one and then did a dual takedown on the second one to then get them out of the way so we could take on the rest of the guys much faster. And after taking care of that, we pick up Harley Quinn to take her and Albert King back to the quarantine cells to continue testing for the cure. But when Robin goes to prep the cell for Harley, we see that all the Jokers have been killed in their cells, which Batman tells Robin not to move, and in a crazy twist of events, it turns out that Henry was the one that killed them all. And just so you all understand, since I never explained this before, the reason why Henry was never in a cell and Batman somewhat trusted him was because he didn't show any Joker-like tendencies, like the hair or the personality, for example, like the others. So he's been using him as a primary test for the cure of the virus. But after this, it's revealed that he was just hiding his tendencies from Batman, building up to this moment as he somehow managed to hack the Bat computer with the virus, which is how Harley managed to change all the voice security to her own voice instead of Batman's. And after a little monologue, he proceeds to kill Albert King in front of everyone, which turns Batman's Joker on, as Joker literally eggs Batman on to kill him as he balls up his fist. But before he can even do anything, Henry realizes that Batman is the last Joker when he sees Batman's eyes turn green and turns the gun on himself, shooting himself dead. And when he looks at Robin, he sees the color of his eyes and realizes that Batman is the last Joker as well, and that the last cell is for him, to which he tells Robin that after he stops Scarecrow, he's locking himself away. Robin, of course, doesn't want to take the risk and tells him that if he fails to defeat Scarecrow, he won't be able to stop Batman on his own, as he walks over to the cell and tells Batman that the right thing to do is to go in the cell and stay there so he can't hurt anyone else, which surprisingly we do, as we just walk in the cell and comply with Robin as he goes out there and tries to stop the Arkham Knight on his own. And after he leaves and after walking up and down our cell a couple times, we see Jason once again, this time sitting on a chair with a camera facing him. And when we spin around again, Joker finally arrives as he tells us that he didn't get to finish his story about Jason Todd, as he releases us from our cage, initiating the third and final Jason Todd hallucination sequence, as we see Joker recording a video for Batman, letting him know everything that happened to Jason Todd, as he asks Jason who he hates, to which Jason responds that he hates Batman, showing that Joker tortured him so much that his mental and his hope has drastically gone downhill to the point where he despises Batman, which Joker asks Robin about Batman's identity and demands him to tell him his name. And right before Jason can say Bruce's name, Joker pulls out a gun and shoots Jason right then and there, killing him. And if you all remember at the end of the barber killing Joker hallucination, we see a quote written on the wall. Well, now we know where that came from, because at the end of the video recording, Joker says that exact line: "You've seen what happens when you drag your friends into this crazy little game of ours," showing that this stuck with Batman for all this time and never left him, which I found to be such a cool little detail that most people watching this video probably never knew about. But after this hallucination subsides, the lights turn back on, bringing us back to the real world, as it's revealed that we never actually went in the cell, and none of that actually happened, as Robin is still waiting there to let us in from before the hallucination even started. And the moment we approach the cell, we get the option to counter Robin, and when we hit the counter button, instead of going in the cell ourselves, we push Robin in and lock him instead, to which Batman proceeds to cut off all of Robin's communications off from the Bat computer so we can't talk to Alfred at all. Alfred notices this instantly and asks Batman what the issue is, to which Batman completely lies to him and says he's fine and that he just has a faulty comms unit. And after getting off the call with Alfred, we get into probably one of the most emotional and dramatic scenes in this game, as we walk over to Robin's cell and finally tell him about Oracle, and that she was killed by the Scarecrow, which he asked to be let out but denied by Batman. And after calling Bruce a son of a bitch, which is kind of crazy to say, I can't lie, we leave him locked in the cell in Panessa Studios as we go back out and search for the Cloudburst, but of course somehow isn't found yet after spending all that time in the studio stopping Harley, as Alfred tells us that the Batwing is a piece of shit and is still conducting scans of the city, even though it's in $1 billion plane that should be capable of finding something like this in mere minutes. But after he tells us the bad news, he gives us even more bad news as he tells us that there's unusual seismic activity on Miyagani Island, and that he's lost all contact with Lucius Fox at Wayne Tower as well. And the moment he said that, I raced over there as fast as I could, well, after going on a high-speed chase of course, because after being cooped up in the movie studios for so long, I just missed shooting missiles missiles at the militia tanks. After taking out one of the militia's military vehicles, we head over to the underground entrance of Wayne Tower and take the elevator up to check up on Lucius to see if everything's fine. And a second later, we enter the lobby as Bruce Wayne instead of Batman as we head over to the computer to use it. But the moment we try to log in, the eye sensors don't work for some reason. And in no time, Lucius comes up to check on us and asks us if we need any help as he sees that we aren't able to log in. And once he gets right next to us, it's when it gives us the option to use the retinal scanner again. And when we use the option this time, instead of using our own eyes, Bruce slams Lucius Fox's head into the table and uses his eyes to log in and throws him onto the ground, which he starts forwarding his funds to another person's account when it's revealed that Batman watched all this unfold in the elevator on his way up, and that the man in the room isn't Bruce Wayne, but actually Hush, aka Thomas Elliot, who reconstructed his face to look identical to Bruce Wayne. And when we exit the elevator, we see him broadcasting across Wayne Tower, him in the room holding Lucius at gunpoint. And when we enter the room, he demands Batman to bring him the real Bruce Wayne, admitting that the Waynes destroyed his life. And for those of you that don't understand, Tommy essentially tried to kill his own parents when he was a child in a car crash to inherit their money, but failed after Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, saved his mother from dying, denying him from that inheritance. And he pretty much hates Bruce for it because he's living the life that he desired. And after demanding Batman one more time to bring him Bruce, Batman takes off his mask and shows Tommy that Bruce Wayne is standing right in front of him, which shocks him to his core as he moves back and becomes edgy with the trigger, which puts us into a quick time event where we need to counter him when he turns the gun on us at the right time, too early or he'll kill Lucius. And the moment he turns it on us, we counter it immediately, turning the gun away from us as Lucius smashes the glass bottle across his face, breaking the reconstruction of Bruce Wayne as Batman takes him down by smashing him through the desk. A little excessive, I must say, but it worked out in the end, I guess. And after rescuing Lucius, we head back on the main mission and investigate the seismic activity Alfred told us about on Miagani Island. As the moment we get there, Ivy, for whatever reason, got a little impatient and gave up her location by using her plan to destroy 3 of the malicious drones, which takes us into a tank battle, which I will say is the hardest tank battle we've been in thus far, as I managed to die twice while playing through it, as I just kept getting hit by the stupidest things. Either I just ran into the line of fire of the tanks, or they just hit me out of nowhere as soon as they fired. But after failing twice to take down these tanks, we finally succeed to destroy them all, to which the Arkham Knight sends in 5 Cobra tanks on the island to take me out. But regardless, we get to this tank stealth section pretty easily, other than me almost dying to one of the tanks in the beginning, as I just didn't listen and thought they were just regular tanks and decided to shoot at it. But quickly realized that wasn't the case and almost died in one single hit when trying to run away. But after dealing with all those tanks, we head back over to Ivy to pick her up and take her back to the GCPD because of how dangerous everything was getting. And after Ivy pretty much says that she can't let her plants fight them alone, Alfred calls us up and finally tells us that the Batwing found the Cloudburst and that's being manned by the Arkham Knight himself. But it's a little late for that, as the moment we spot it on the Perdition Bridge, he sets it off with an explosion that engulfs the entire city in Scarecrow's fear toxin, as everyone caught in it just starts fighting and killing each other, just like the opening cutscene in the diner. And after letting Ivy back in her plant so she can keep it alive, Alfred tells us that the Cloudburst energy field burnt out the Batmobile's power core since it was caught in the initial blast, to which Batman tells him that he's gonna go after Stagg and his airship, since he's the one that made the Cloudburst, he should know a way to destroy it. But when we get back to the biological engineering room, we found out Stagg had somehow escaped the cage he was trapped in by the militia when we last saw him, which brings us to a relatively small stealth section as the militia are also trying to find Stagg. And after we take care of them, we follow the trail of Stagg's fingerprints via detective vision to find where Stagg's escaped to which we find him hiding under one of the grates. And when Batman interrogates him about how to stop the Cloudburst, he tells us that the Cloudburst is surrounded by a Nimbus field that helps spread the toxin, and that any vehicle that isn't using a Nimbus cell will be fried, to which he politely lets us borrow one of the cells like a gentleman, as Batman shoves him into one of the cages like all the other monkeys. And after taking out a bunch of the militia aerodrones so we don't have to deal with them later, we make it back to the Batmobile's location to repair it. And after Alfred tries to persuade Batman not to go through with this, Batman just says that there's no other choice, and YOLO jumps into the gas along with Joker, where we're put into another slow section just like in Ace Chemicals at the beginning of the game. With this time, we need to extract the power core slowly and replace it with the Nimbus cell that we got from Stagg. And after a little time, encountering some incoming attacks from the thugs, we get the Nimbus cell in and crawl back into the Batmobile, where it filters out all the fear toxin thanks to the cell, making it one of the few safe places to be in the city. And when Batman confirms to Alfred that he's fine and just needs a moment to breathe, Joker jump scares us, telling Batman that it won't be long until he's behind the wheel, to which we run him over with the Batmobile and realize that the Cloudburst is interfering with the Batmobile scanners, to which we ask Ivy to tell us where we can find another one of her plants so we can clear some of the gas, to which she tells us that it's beneath Founder's Island, as we use the Batmobile sonar scanner to find the plant and free it. But when we get there and try to free it, Batman says that its roots are too deep for the sonar to free it from this high up. So we head over to Port Adams to get underground to try to free it. And after a tank ambush from the militia and a whole ass journey through the underground tunnels, we finally get to the root's location and free it via the sonar shot. But when the plant lifts us back to the surface, we get ambushed once again by a bunch of the militia. This time around, not as bad as the first time, but after taking them out, the Arkham Knight has had enough and just wants to kill Batman and tells us to go over to Bleak Island so we can finish this, which we do. And the moment we get there, we tell Alfred to raise the bridges so the Arkham Knight has no escape, and to deploy the Batwing to scan the Cloudburst for his weaknesses, which enters us into, my opinion, the single hardest and most intense boss fight in this entire game, as I believe that this fight has the most Cobra tank deployment, which wouldn't be an issue by themselves, but the Cloudburst is the biggest issue, as it has 360 vision, which makes it harder to take out the Cobra tanks, as you pretty much have to play around its vision to decide where you want to move. And also, even though the Cobra tanks are still somewhat easy, what does make this a tiny bit harder is the fact that these tanks are always squished together and aren't separate. So the moment I take out one of the tanks, the others are going to be able to get to its location in no time. But after taking out all the Cobra tanks is when the real fight begins, as now we get to actually fight the Cobra tank itself. But before we can do that, the Batwing is apparently still a dog shit fucking plane and can't even do what Batman programmed it to do. So it's up to us to get up close and personal with it and scan it for ourselves to find its weaknesses. And after doing one single scan of the Cloudburst tank, we were able to identify 4 different points on the tank that we need to attack to destroy it. And now it's just trying not to die. As the first point, we pretty much get off rip, as after we did the initial scan, we were in the best position to actually get it. And after getting that shot off, it was no attack and all retreat, as it went into roid rage mode and started throwing everything it had on us, as we just had to let the Cloudburst overcharge run out before it went back to normal. Thankfully, we didn't get hit a single time, but now we have to do that 3 more times before we defeat it, with 2 of the points being at the front of the vehicle, which is going to be so fun to do. But what isn't fun is what is about to happen right now, as after shooting the second point behind the vehicle, I'm apparently the worst driver ever, as I just kept running into every wall under the sun, which allowed the Cloudburst to hit me multiple times during his roid rage, resulting in the Batmobile literally going down to 1 HP. Literally, look at the health bar. It's pretty much dead, and we still have the 2 hardest points to hit. So after gathering myself together and lurking around in the shadows, I finally see it and take my chance as I get the hit off and just start bolting. And this time around, it was a lot better as I managed to get away from him this time around, but there was still 1 more to go, and I could not screw this up, which I damn near did instantly, as the moment I tried to shoot the point, the aim was nearly locked in, but failed as the car was turning, to which the gun managed to spot me and I had to run away almost dying, but I managed to survive and had to try again, this time successfully getting it off, which disabled the main cannon and allowed me to attack the Cloudburst directly. But that doesn't mean that it still can't attack me, as just as I was about to destroy it, I managed to get hit, killing the run entirely, making me have to restart the section from the very beginning. Which is what I thought, as when the game loaded back up, I was back where I left off and didn't have to go through all that bullshit again. To which we just attacked the center of the Cloudburst while failing to dodge all its attacks, and when we finally defeat it, the Arkham Knight climbs out of the tank as Batman managed to grab him and grapple out before it completely explodes. But of course, this bastard doesn't stay down, as he tries to kill us after we just saved his ass, as Batman rolls him over and starts going to town on him. Not what I meant, just that he starts punching him in the face. Get your mind out the fucking gutter. But after punching him a few times, his face turns into the Joker, to which Batman stands up as Joker just laughs at us. And in one of my most favorite interactions in this game, Batman calls up Alfred to let him know the situation, and when Alfred asks him if he managed to capture the Arkham Knight, Batman unsurely tells him that he managed to escape. And when Alfred questions him, he just switches channels right away to Ivy to tell her that the Cloudburst is destroyed and to try and take out as much of the gas as she can, to which Alfred tells us that the toxin is overwhelming Ivy's plants, potentially putting her in danger. And when we get off the call with Alfred, we still see the Joker on the floor laughing at us, having us question whether that's really an illusion or is the Arkham Knight still there but we don't know it. But when we go over to check on Ivy, the plant opens up for us as we see Ivy looking completely drained, and with the Cloudburst completely destroyed, she uses the last ounce of her power within the plant to restore its life and falls onto the ground. And as Batman picks her up, she says in her final words that nature always wins, as she fades away in his arms, dying. But even with her gone, she and her plants managed to completely clear the toxin across the city, saving Gotham in her final dying moments. And after looking across Gotham as the toxin fades away, we get a call from Alfred congratulating us as we let him know about the passing of Poison Ivy, and when asked about Scarecrow's whereabouts, he lets us know that he has nothing concrete at the moment, but the GCPD comms room might, as they've been trying to decrypt the transmission sent on the SWAT channel. And when we reach there, Batman manages to solve it in like 2 seconds, and it's revealed that Jim was the one sending the transmission and that he's found Scarecrow on his own. Batman manages to track him down via the ID number of the radio that he was using, which is within an abandoned shopping mall. And once we reach the point, we see him being held hostage by a bunch of armed militia troops as he's taken into an elevator. And the moment he leaves, we use the voice synthesizer to command one of the men to open the shutter door with the Arkham Knight's voice, as we then proceed to take out all of them with the Batmobile. And after a little traveling, and by a little traveling I mean damn near 20 minutes of trying to get the Batmobile through these spinning blades, we finally make it all the way down as we get to the entrance of the tunnel. But as soon as we do, Batman points out that the tunnels are leading him in the wrong direction and asks Alfred to dig up any schematics he can find on the tunnel routes. And when we enter the tunnels with the Batmobile, we drive around some obstacles set in our way, getting us ready for what's about to happen, because as soon as we drive off this ramp, a giant excavator comes drilling up to our location, revealing that the Arkham Knight did indeed escape and is still here, to which we instantly turn around and drive away as fast as we can, dodging all the obstacles in our way, using using the tunnels to our advantage, as we manage to lead the Knight into some conveniently placed bombs as they explode the moment the Excavator comes in contact with them. And after chatting with Alfred about there being no way out and the exit being remotely controlled by the Knight himself, we finally come to the final face-off with the Arkham Knight, as the whole goal of this is to lead the Knight to each of the 3 bomb locations that we see on the map so we can deal damage to it like we just did a few moments ago. Now, I will say that when I was younger playing this fight, it was one of the most intense and scariest experiences in a game I'd had, because back then I didn't really understand what I was doing and I never really paid any attention to the map. But doing this now, I understood exactly what I had to do, as pretty much the game plan was to drive to the entrance of one of the bomb tunnels and wait till I saw him coming from either side and just shoot at him to get his attention so he'd follow me through the tunnel and get hit with the bombs. And that strategy worked like an absolute charm, as all I had to do was not get caught driving towards the tunnel I wanted to go through and just dodge all the obstacles without messing up, because if he caught me at any point, I was dying in one hit and I had to restart all this from the very beginning. But luckily, I wasn't an idiot this time and did everything perfectly, and after leading him through the 3rd and final tunnel, Alfred lets us know, after pretty much telling us that there was no way of escaping and pretty much leaving us to die, that he somehow miraculously disabled the door lock remotely after we just defeated the Excavator. But after we go through the exit and use the power winch to open up our escape, the Arkham Knight manages to find us still in the Excavator, as he proudly gloats that he's finally cornered Batman with no way out, and relates to us that he's the one that told Scarecrow about Oracle, and actually refers to her as Oracle instead of Barbara, which he calls Batman by his true name, Bruce, and says that he's kept some secrets to himself. And as he moves closer to us with the Excavator, we back up and launch out of the Batmobile and watch as the Arkham Knight completely crushes the Batmobile, destroying it into pieces. And after witnessing that complete cruelty happen to the Batmobile, we manage to navigate upwards within the tunnels and manage to locate Jim Gordon, as he's surrounded by a bunch of militia guards we take out in no time. Seriously, it's just a combat section. If we died here, we deserve to restart the run, because what the fuck. But after taking out these guys, we go over to rescue Gordon. But before we can release him, the Arkham Knight returns and tells Batman to turn around. And when Batman asks who he is, the Arkham Knight finally reveals his identity to Batman as Jason Todd, aka the second Robin, who we saw being tortured and killed in Batman's hallucinations back at Panessa Studios. And really, to only Batman's surprise, Joker apparently lied in the video he sent him, as he never actually killed Jason Todd when he shot him. And here we are now, as Jason tells Batman how he feels and tells him that the one thing he wants right now is him dead. And the moment he puts his pistol to his chin, Batman knocks him away with a bat headbutt and manages to escape before Jason can shoot him, as we watch Jason create a literal sniper rifle with both of his pistols in such a cool scene, and rip off the damaged Blueface armor, revealing the Red hiding underneath, as he becomes the Red Hood and takes a sniping position on one of the gargoyles. And now we enter the Jason Todd boss fight, in which the goal is to avoid his line of sight, to get below him and execute a takedown on him before he realizes it. The first one is pretty simple, as we can get to him pretty easily without him seeing us, and the moment we grapple up to the gargoyle, Batman pretty much just tries to reason with Jason, but he's so full of rage he doesn't listen and disappears and opens up a little more of the room with him on another gargoyle. But this time it's a little harder, as it's now turned into a full-blown stealth section with armed guards and everything. This is actually made particularly difficult due to the Arkham Knight not only having his own vision, but also him controlling a drone as well, giving him another way to scan the room, as I didn't realize that there were other thugs in the room and just tried jumping down and hiding, but the moment I saw the drone in action, it spotted me and just gave away my position while also shocking me as an added bonus. I also did end up dying like an idiot, as for whatever reason I did an inverted takedown right next to another guy, which got me killed in like 2 shots. But after that, I just ended up playing safe and didn't take as many risks, as it just wasn't worth dying over, and I still had to do this 3 more times. But after dealing with 2 more stealth sections, we get to the last one, which in my opinion is the hardest one, as there aren't any armed thugs per se, but he does set up 2 spinning sentry guns right below him, as well as his flying drone that he controls himself, along with his own vision, which has become much further than all the others. I will say that this did take some precise timing to get around, as I couldn't destroy the sentry guns at all without the risk of being spotted, and thankfully he drove the drone away from my location like an idiot. But I was still so paranoid, so I periodically checked behind me to see where it was while I was waiting for my time to move, and eventually I just went for it as I waited for the sentry gun to make its rotation to make my move, which cut it pretty close, but thankfully I didn't get spotted and put an end to the boss fight and the Arkham Knight altogether, as Batman takes Jason down to the ground, where the sentry gun somehow disappeared, as Batman gets on top of Jason, holding back his signature knockout punch, and gets up as Jason tells him that Batman is the reason he's like this, and that he left him in an abandoned wing in Arkham for over a year with Joker. And when Batman puts out his hand offering to help him fix this, he finally puts his gun down, overcome with defeat, as he doesn't even want to kill Batman anymore. And after this, Batman tells Alfred that he's found Jason, to which he disappears from sight, as we hop down to find his old Arkham Knight mask, where we can finally set Jim Gordon free. But as soon as Jim opens up the elevator to get to the top of the building, a bunch of Scarecrow's men hop out and punch him in the face, cueing us getting into another combat section, which we take care of just like all the other combat sections in the game, really easily. And after taking out the last guy, Jim conveniently gets back up right after I finish them off, as if he was just playing dead to avoid fighting these guys, as we ride the elevator up to confront Scarecrow. But on the way up, Batman tells him that it was an honor working with Barbara, and that even if he knew about it, he couldn't have stopped her. To which he says that him and Bruce are the same, and that they'd do anything for their family. To which we finally reach the top to confront Scarecrow, Scarecrow with Gordon pointing a gun at him. And when Batman tells him to get on his knees, Scarecrow admits that he was unsuccessful and that he had doubts that he could even make this happen. And when Batman tells him again, Scarecrow says that he wasn't talking to Batman and says that it's time. As we watch Gordon turn the gun on Batman and says that this was the only way, to which Scarecrow brings out Barbara, revealing that she was never dead. And when Gordon tells him to let her go and he denies, he points the gun back at him, making two more armed thugs run in for protection. And after being told by Scarecrow to think very carefully about his next move, Gordon straight up just shoots Batman off the building, killing him. To which the guard grabs hold of Gordon so he can't stop Scarecrow's next move, as he tells Gordon that killing Batman would not have saved Barbara. To which he rolls her to the edge of the building, threatening to toss her off, and when she tells him that she's not scared of him, he tells her in her final moments that it's okay to be afraid, as he lets go of her wheelchair, letting her fall to her death. But out of nowhere, Batman miraculously shows up and catches Oracle midair, saving her from the fall, to which he reveals that Gordon shot him in the spot where his armor is the strongest, as revealed at the beginning of the game when we had our first confrontation with the Arkham Knight. But as soon as we think everything is safe, a herd of militia troops come our way trying to blow our heads off, but we end up calling on the Batmobile, which is brought in by the Batwing to replace the one that was destroyed by the Arkham Knight in the tunnels earlier, which brings us to another tank battle, which we take care of as quickly as we can. And once we finish off those guys, we carry Oracle into the Batmobile to take her to the GCPD to get her set up there. And once she gains access to the clock tower comms, we see the militia already trying to destroy the server room, making us having to go there and stop them before they make too much of a mess. But on the way there, we see a militia checkpoint set up on the ground outside the tower, as we just drop in and take them all out in a pretty small combat section. And after taking them all out, we find the commander using detective mode and destroy checkpoint controller, shutting it down. And as soon as we do that, Alfred contacts us to let us know that our attack alerted the militia's new commander after the Arkham Knight went missing, as he puts through the new commander, who turns out to be Deathstroke, who we last saw in Arkham Origins when we fought him on Penguin's boat. We tell him that the Arkham Knight's gone and that he won't be getting paid for his services, to which he tells us that he took payment in advance for this one, so he's obliged to see killing Batman through. And after ending communication with him, we get back on track to the clock tower, which is heavily guarded by snipers and armed militia. The snipers aren't a problem at all, as we just take them both out right away, but this time around, since the last time we were here, there are a lot more militia troops guarding this place. But that doesn't mean it's any harder, as we've taken on challenges harder than this throughout this game. We take care of this pretty easily, with the only real challenge is playing around the minigunner, but he isn't that big of a deal once he starts cutting away from the rest of the crowd. And after we take care of them, we get Oracle connected back to the Batcomputer's mainframe so she can continue her search for the Scarecrow. We then head back to the GCPD to see what she's found. But before we can talk further, we hear a huge explosion outside the building, as the moment we leave the lockup, two military vehicles filled with militia hop out. And after fighting these guys off for like 10 seconds, I realized that there's absolutely no reason to be doing this when I can just hop in the Batmobile and take all these guys out in less time, as I literally just hop in and run them all over, somehow not killing them. And after taking them all out, we tell Cash to open the shutter doors, to which he tells us that he can't since the building's power's out. And once we make it out of the building on foot, we really get to see how much Scarecrow threw at the GCPD, as he pretty much sent his entire drone force to take down the building. But after getting in the building from the other side by blinding this helicopter drone and taking care of a bunch of these thugs waiting at the backup generator, we power it on using the remote electrical charge and bring power back to the GCPD. And now is where we face our toughest challenge yet, as this right here is the single hardest tank battle in this entire game. And if you all forgot, I'm playing this game on hard mode, which deals a lot more damage to the Batmobile every time I get hit. So after Oracle tells us that there's a vulnerability in the militia's network and she can hijack their drones, we hop in the Batmobile and get ready for the final battle, as we count down with Oracle on 3 to finish this. And the moment we head out, we take out the chopper along with using our multi-takedown missiles right away, taking out like 5 drones because I'm an idiot and blocked the missiles way with the building, thinking it would just phase through the wall. But long story short, I didn't even make it halfway, as we ended up dying at 32 drones, with the death sequence being a lot more brutal than the others, as instead of seeing the villain standing over us as we die, we see the GCPD get stormed by the militia as a minigunner just kills everyone in the room without even flinching. But we try again, this time dying again at the exact same place, but with one more drone destroyed at 31. But you know what they say, 5th time's a charm, as it took us a whole 5 tries to defeat the drones and save the GCPD, as apparently I can't dodge to save my life, and Oracle shit just didn't work sometimes, so I'm blaming it on her entirely. But after finally taking out all those drones and saving the building, another helicopter flies by the building, this time dropping men on the roof to try and bypass the security lock to the building. Now, many years ago, I would have called this combat section the hardest in the entire game, and yes, it's still relatively difficult, as you need to go through 2 waves of men, including 2 brutes in the second wave, which I ended up dying once to. But overall, I think you just need to have a good understanding of the resources around you to make the fight easier, as I was just using a bunch of the environmental takedowns to make quick work of the brutes, so I could just get to fighting the regular guys as soon as I could, because the more brutes there are, the harder the section is. And these are militia brutes too, so spending the combo meter on them isn't gonna instantly take them down like it does to regular thugs. You have to use it twice. But I will say that the sword and shield guys did make it much harder as well, as since the brutes take a while to beat down, you're pretty much open to any attacks coming your way while you're in that beatdown sequence. And the only way to dodge out of the way is by jumping over the brute, since the shield is uncounterable. And if you have nowhere to move back, you can't dodge the sword sword attacks at all. So you have to be really strategic when trying to beat this section. But you know I'm telling the truth about the difficulty because I didn't skip it like I did all the other combat sections in this game, because all the other ones are super easy. It's just this one that gave me the most trouble. And Albert King, if you want to count that. But after taking out these guys on the roof, Oracle tells us that Scarecrow pulled up to the movie studios to assumably take Robin since we kept him locked in there. And not to our surprise, we were right. As he took him straight out of the cage, we locked him in. And the moment we realized that he has all our allies in the palm of his hand, he contacts us directly and tells us that he has both Robin and Gordon, and tells us to go to a storage depot in Kingston alone and to prepare to take off the mask or they'll die. And after asking Harley if she saw the kidnapping happen, we exit the movie studios and get a call from Barbara where she's pissed as she tells us straight out that we were wrong for locking him up and that whatever it takes, we're gonna have to get them both back. To which we comply with Scarecrow and head over to the location he stated, as he tells us to take off our utility belt and go into the truck, wedge into the building somehow. And as we surrender to Scarecrow, we go into first person mode, to which the truck starts moving. And not too long after, Alfred contacts us saying that he detects someone tracking our movement throughout the city, to which Batman says he knows who it is, but isn't able to tell Alfred in time before his comms get taken out in replacement of Scarecrow's voice, to which he rambles on about fear until the truck gets struck by a car and gets completely destroyed. And when Batman gets up, we see that we've been dropped off at Crime Alley, which is where Batman's parents were killed, as we see them lying there in the same position as they were on that fatal night. And as we pay respects to the life Bruce lost in that alleyway, the moment is briefly interrupted by none other than the Joker, as he mocks us and tells us to let go of everything and let him take control, as he kicks us down and spawns in a bunch of clones of himself to fight us. As we now get into one of the most bizarre combat sections in this game, as when we use our finishing combos on Joker, Batman pretty much kills him each time he does it, as he breaks Joker's back in this one, and honestly I don't know what the hell he's doing here. But after fighting them off for a while, Batman grabs one of the Jokers by the neck as he taunts Batman to do what he's always wanted to do, as he gives us an option to kill Joker, which we do of course, as we watch Batman snap Joker's neck, killing him. Well, not really, as after he breaks Joker's neck, it's revealed that entire sequence was in Batman's head, and we're still in the truck on the way to Scarecrow's location. Joker then stands up and tells Batman that he's finally crossed the line he swore never to cross, and now Scarecrow's gonna set him free. As we get into one of the coolest cutscenes in this game, as we see pretty much a recreation of the intro of the first game in the series, watching as the truck drives all the way through Gotham and takes us all the way back to where it all started, in Arkham Asylum. And once we get there, we see Scarecrow reeling in Batman towards Robin and Jim in the same manner Joker was rolled in for the first time in Arkham Asylum, as he tells us his entire plan the whole time was to show Gotham the face of failure, and he doesn't care who Batman is, but the public does. And when they see who Batman really is, they can see that he finally failed, and failure will have a face to it. And then instantly commands Gordon to take off his mask. Of course he refuses, which causes Scarecrow to shoot Robin to persuade him. And as it goes on, we see Gordon approach Batman and finally remove the mask from his face, revealing his identity to the world as Bruce Wayne, to which Scarecrow approaches Bruce and injects him with more of his fear toxin, pushing him over the edge and setting Joker free, as we see a scenario play out in his head where Joker is now in the position Bruce was, but this time facing Two-Face, Riddler, Penguin, and Croc. And in a really cool sequence, he calls in the Joker mobile as he manages to escape the locks and hops in, giving us full control of the vehicle, as we start literally committing mass murder within the room. And once all the bars are filled up, we can use the Killing Joke to launch missiles throughout the entire room, killing everyone in it, to which Joker hops out with a shotgun in hand as he moves throughout the building, killing everyone he comes across, including Penguin, Riddler, and Two-Face. But the moment we kill Two-Face, we look down on his body and it turns out that it was Jim the entire time, and we just killed a bunch of officers from the GCPD instead of a bunch of thugs. And when we exit the building, we see the entirety of Gotham on fire, in which we hear on our comms Alfred trying to stop us, revealing that we're not playing as Joker but Batman all along, and that Joker had finally taken over Batman fully and was set free like he said Scarecrow would, bringing us back to the real world, as now it's Joker strapped onto the table, not Batman, representing that Joker is now in control. And when Scarecrow tries to scare Batman by telling him that everyone he loves will be hunted down and killed, Joker straight up laughs in his face, showing that he doesn't care, which completely confuses Scarecrow as he reiterates that it's the end and it's all over, to which Joker just laughs in his face, again not caring at all, as Scarecrow injects him with another dose of the fear toxin, asking him why he isn't scared. As we transition back into Joker's mind, as the entire city that was once on fire was completely dark, and we're put into first person mode, still with the shotgun in hand, bringing us to probably the most horror-like section in this game, as this game in general is definitely the scariest in the entire series, with there being jump scares everywhere, but this section, especially since it's first person, just gives us that immersive horror experience. But this entire section is essentially just a representation of Joker's only fear, and that's being forgotten about after his death. And after going through and seeing how no one ever cared about his death other than Batman, we get to the final section as these Batman statues just start appearing one by one each time our back is turned, and we just start shooting all of them. And this is where it gets really scary, as the music just keeps getting louder and louder and more intense, just waiting for something to jump out at us. And eventually he does, as Batman finally appears out of one of the statues and gives us his signature stomp and punch finisher, bringing us to the exit of Batman's mind. And as soon as we use the lever, everything lights up again, but this time we're not alone, as the Arkham Asylum intensive intensive treatment door opens up, bringing in a cell as Batman tells Joker that he's afraid of being forgotten. As the doors drop down, revealing Batman, who approaches us slowly and is completely immune to our gunshot, which brings us to one of the most satisfying moments in this entire game, as we just get to beat the fuck out of the Joker until we decide to pick him up and throw him towards the cell, where we get to beat him up some more and finally lock him away and send him packing out of our mind, completely curing ourselves of the Joker virus and the fear toxin as a whole, as our eyes turn back to normal, bringing us back to the real world. And when Scarecrow tries to inject Batman again with the toxin, Bruce tells him that he isn't afraid and that the toxin doesn't affect him anymore. And in a crazy chain of events, it's revealed who the person tracking Batman on the way to the Asylum was, as Red Hood makes his final appearance and frees Batman from the table, stopping Scarecrow from injecting him again, as Batman overpowers him and gives him a taste of his own medicine and injects Scarecrow with the toxin, as we get to see what he fears the most, which who would have guessed is Batman himself, as he completely shits himself when he sees Batman approaching him. And when he tries to run away, Gordon's there to lay the final punch in, knocking him out cold and putting a stop to Scarecrow for good. And as we see the story wrap up, Batman tells Gordon to look after everyone and that he's been a good friend after all this time, as Gordon was there at the beginning and now he's gonna get to see how it ends, as Batman leaves Arkham Asylum and takes Scarecrow to the rooftop of the GCPD, as we watch Scarecrow cower in fear as he's handed over to Cash to be locked up indefinitely. Which brings us to the end of Arkham Knight's main story. And yes, I know we're already like an hour and a half into this video, and I just want to say, if you've made it this far into the video, I absolutely love you to death, and I cannot thank you enough for the support on this video, because making it this far shows me how much you truly care about the content on this channel and shows me that you like what I'm putting out. So if you made it this far, comment Unmask in the comments so I know and I'll respond to you. But now with the lovely dovey stuff out of the way, I did say that this was a 120% video, meaning that we still have all the side missions to go over, but if I'm being honest, this video has gone on for way too long, and I'm just gonna spare you all the details, as we all know what we're really here for, which are the Riddler trophies, as after doing every other mission, which includes Deathstroke, Penguin, Pig, Man-Bat, Two-Face, Firefly, the Firefighters, Azrael, Deacon Blackfire, and all the DLC missions, we leave the hardest and most annoying for last, which is the Riddler, as in order to get him, we need to go through all of his trials to save Catwoman, which we do, as we fight off his Riddler bots, and he goes into hiding and tells us the only way we'll ever fight him is if we solve all 243 riddles throughout the city. And after we set Catwoman free, we start grinding those riddles, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I used a guide for this, because I was not about to traverse the entire city and find all 243 of these things all on my own, because these Riddler informants are actually useless because they barely give up anything anyways, and also some of these trophies were actually hidden so well that I have no idea how I would have found them if it wasn't for this guy. By the way, it's not only the trophies I need to actually solve legitimate riddles, but after spending, I kid you not, 13 hours, 35 minutes, and 12 seconds collecting each and every last riddle, we finally complete all the riddles in Gotham City and earn the right to fight the Riddler, which was pretty much the exact same fight as before, only this time we get to attack the man himself. But I guess I'm somewhat stupid, as I didn't realize that the color of his shield changes and you have to change characters to attack him based on the color of the shield, which did, I will admit, lead to a couple deaths. But after beating on his Riddler bots and giving Riddler himself the most satisfying beatdown of a lifetime, we finally defeat this piece of shit for wasting our time and take him over to GCPD, where we lock him away as the finale of the Gotham Most Wanted. And after inspecting all of our work and talking to the motherfuckers we put away, we finally head over to the Bat Signal and look at every single checkmark on the Most Wanted list, which is probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever accomplished in a game ever, as this is the first time I've ever 100%ed any of the Arkham games purely because of the Riddler's bullshit. And after looking at this, I want to say it's worth it, but at the same time, it would be a complete waste of time if I wasn't doing it for a video. And after looking at that, we move over to the Bat Signal and initiate the Nightfall protocol, as we take off our masks and confirm to Jim Gordon that Gotham is safe, as he tells Batman thank you for everything, as Bruce gives him a final goodbye as the Batwing comes over him, as we watch him fly back to Wayne Manor with the Bat Signal being destroyed. And of course, once he gets there, there's already a whole trolley of paparazzi surrounding the area, and as soon as Bruce enters the house, Alfred asks him if he's really sure he wants to do this, which Bruce says it's the only way to protect them, as the door shuts and the entire house completely explodes, destroying the entirety of Wayne Manor, making everyone think that Bruce Wayne was killed in the explosion. And to end it all off, we see the opening of Arkham Knight again, with Jim Gordon saying, "This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died." We then see a second cutscene that takes place after the story of Arkham Knight, where we see Jim dressed up in a suit as he gets a text from Tim Drake showing us that today is Tim and Barbara's wedding day. And to end the game off, we see a sequence that completely mirrors the death of the Waynes, as a couple and the child walk in an alleyway and get robbed at gunpoint. But before we can go any further, we see a bat figure on the roof floating in the air as he spreads his wings and dives straight towards them, ending the game and credits roll. I really hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I did creating it, because this video took a lot of work to be made. As you can hear, my voice is going dead, as this is the longest video on this channel so far. more. And if you made it this far, I just want to say I thank you for watching and enjoying my content. And if you like this video, there's plenty more coming in the works. And I just want to say that I really enjoyed completing this game, no matter how much shit I gave it. It still holds a special place in my heart as one of my favorite games ever. But I'm never doing this again, especially because of Riddler's bullshit. Fuck that guy. But with that, I truly hope all of you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!